It began on a Friday morning that felt ordinary, though nothing about what followed would ever be called that again. On June 14th, 1997, two men wearing plain gray suits and gloves entered the Valley West Bank in Carson Ridge, Nevada, a quiet town surrounded by miles of ochre desert. The time on the surveillance footage read 10:14 a.m. The teller later said she remembered the sound of the air conditioner more than the shouting. It wasn't loud, she said. It was like they rehearsed every breath. They moved with precision, no wasted gestures, no visible nerves. The taller one, later identified as Eric Dalton, carried a black duffel bag and a short sawed-off shotgun. The other, Paul Mercer, had a handheld radio scanner clipped to his belt and a small device that jammed police frequencies for 90 seconds at a time. They knew exactly how long they had. In less than 4 minutes, they forced the manager to open the vault, filled the bag with $6 million in mixed bills, and vanished in a silver Ford Crown Victoria that had been reported stolen 2 days earlier from Reno. When police arrived, they were gone. Witnesses said the car turned west onto Route 46, heading into the desert, but after 20 miles, the trail ended. Helicopters searched for tire tracks, and dogs traced the scent to an abandoned gas station 30 miles from town. From there, nothing. The car was found burned out the next morning, 3 miles from the state line. No bodies, no footprints, no trace. It was as if they had evaporated into the sand. The case, dubbed the Desert Heist, became one of Nevada's strangest unsolved crimes. For weeks, every major paper ran headlines about it, dissecting the precision of the robbery. Rumors swirled about military backgrounds, ex-security contractors, or inside help from the bank itself. But no one could prove anything. Eric Dalton and Paul Mercer had no criminal records, no known aliases, and their fingerprints matched nothing in the national database. The security footage, grainy and half erased by the magnetic interference of their jammer, showed only 2 silhouettes. Detectives found a single clue at the gas station, a torn receipt from a motel in Bishop, California, dated 2 days before the robbery. On it, the name E. Dalton, written in shaky cursive, room 27. The motel clerk didn't remember faces. They paid cash, she told investigators. Quiet guys. Didn't stay long. For the next year, the case stagnated. The FBI joined in, setting up a joint task force, but leads dried up. Local residents told stories. Strange lights in the desert, an old mining tunnel that went on for miles, even whispers that the men had buried the cash somewhere under the sand, waiting for the right time to come back. Then, in August 2000, a dust storm revealed something unexpected. A park ranger named Hank Oliver was inspecting a closed-off area near Death Valley when he spotted a faint line of half-buried tire tracks, parallel to each other, ending abruptly at a rocky slope. They were old, Oliver said later, but not gone. The desert remembers everything. He marked the coordinates and called it in. Forensic teams combed the area, and 50 yards from the end of the tracks, they found a rusted metal storage container half buried in the sand. Inside were 2 oxygen tanks, a camping stove, canned food, a sleeping bag, and a small transistor radio with the dial stuck on a static frequency. The discovery reignited the investigation. The serial numbers on the canned food placed them as part of a bulk order from a survivalist supply store in Tonopah, purchased under the name Pete Mercer. It was the first verified trace of the robbers since the day they disappeared. Archive excerpt, FBI report, case hashtag 977D62, page 12. The presence of survival gear and consumables indicates premeditation for an extended stay in a remote environment. No evidence of cash was recovered at this site. It is reasonable to infer that the suspects intended to remain hidden until pursuit subsided. Agents expanded the search radius and brought in ground-penetrating radar. That's when they found the second container, empty except for a moldy notebook wrapped in wax paper. The pages were water-stained, but one sentence was legible. He wants to go back for it, but it's too late now. The handwriting matched Dalton's signature from the motel receipt. No date, no coordinates, nothing else. By now, 3 years had passed since the robbery. Families had moved on. The bank had been rebuilt. But one man couldn't let it go: Detective Raymond Cole, the lead investigator from Carson Ridge PD. Cole was in his 50s, known for his patience and stubbornness. His partner, a younger agent named Lisa Moran, had joined the FBI task force just months before. She was the first to suggest that the men might not have died at all. If they had a survival plan, she said in one briefing, they could have made it to Mexico. The question isn't where they went, it's who helped them. The theory was simple but explosive. Someone local had provided supplies, maybe even transport. A third man, unseen on camera, who stayed behind the wheel while the others carried out the robbery. That would explain the precise timing and why the Crown Victoria burned miles away. Someone needed to cover their trail. When agents reviewed satellite photos from that week, they noticed a faint heat signature, an off-road vehicle, heading south from the abandoned gas station around the same time. The image resolution was too low to identify it, but it gave Cole a new obsession: find the driver. In October 2000, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A used car dealer in Barstow called the sheriff's office, reporting that a man tried to sell him a heavily modified Jeep with its serial numbers filed off. The man left when asked for ID. The dealer, curious, checked the vehicle later and found an envelope under the seat containing an old Nevada road map marked with a red X in the desert. He turned it in. The coordinates pointed to an area 20 miles from where the storage containers were found. The site was remote, no roads, just dust and rock. A search team excavated for 2 days before hitting something solid: a third container. Inside were 2 skeletons. One still wore a wristwatch, stopped at 317. The other had a bullet hole in the skull. Dental records confirmed it: Eric Dalton and Paul Mercer. Near them lay a rotted duffel bag filled with shredded, half-decayed bills. The desert had done its work. But the strangest item was the cassette recorder sitting beside them. The tape was intact. The label read, June 15th, 1997. Transcript excerpt, audio tape A1, recovered from container number 3. Eric, stop, just stop, man. We can't stay here. They'll find us. They won't. It's over. No, it's not. You don't understand. He's coming back. Who? Pause. You know who. Static follows for 20 seconds. Then a muffled gunshot. The sound of wind. End of recording. The investigators concluded that one had killed the other before dying himself, but Cole didn't buy it. If one shot the other, he said, who turned off the recorder? The question hung over the case like desert heat. Forensic analysis showed that the bullet in Mercer's skull was fired from a different weapon than the shotgun they used in the bank. A .38 revolver, never recovered. And though the duffel bag was there, the total amount of money found added up to only $1.6 million. $4.5 million were still missing. Cole's report notes, we found their bodies, but not the truth. The official investigation closed in 2001. The bank received partial insurance reimbursement. The town of Carson Ridge turned the story into local folklore, a campfire tale for tourists. But those who worked the case never forgot the missing millions or the mysterious third man hinted at on the tape. In 2003, the Bureau quietly reopened the file after a photo surfaced in a pawn shop in Tucson. It showed 3 men standing beside a silver truck, desert behind them. One was clearly Dalton. Another looked like Mercer. The third, unknown, wearing sunglasses. On the back of the photo, someone had written, just a few more miles. The date stamp read June 15th, 1997, the day after the heist. But by then, Dalton and Mercer were already believed to be dead. The Bureau never found the original photographer. When Cole retired in 2004, he left behind hundreds of pages of notes and a single question scrawled across the final page. Who took the picture? That question would stay unanswered until a decade later, when a new piece of evidence emerged that changed everything. A desert maintenance worker clearing debris near the old gas station found a buried plastic case. Inside was a faded ID badge from the Valley West Bank, belonging to a man named Charles Wren. Wren had been a mid-level security technician at the branch in 1997. He'd vanished a week after the robbery, declared missing, presumed dead. But the badge looked new, as if it had been dropped only recently. Cole, now retired but still restless, was called for consultation. Wren was the inside man, he said. He had to be. The jamming device they used was custom, something only a security tech would know how to handle. His theory finally had a name: the third man. By the end of that summer, the desert began to give up its secrets again, one by one. A service tunnel, a hidden radio frequency, a burned-out trailer in the middle of nowhere, all leading to one conclusion that no one was ready to accept. But before the truth came out, something even stranger surfaced: a confession letter, mailed anonymously to the Carson Ridge Police Department. Postmarked from El Paso, Texas. It was written in neat block letters and ended with the words, "I wasn't supposed to make it out, but I did. The others didn't. Forgive me." The signature: Charles Wren. The envelope contained a key with desert dust still clinging to it, and a note: Locker 17, Ridgeview Storage. When police opened it, they found a small lockbox filled with sun-bleached bank straps marked Valley West, June 1997. No cash, just the straps and a single Polaroid photograph of a wide expanse of desert under twilight, a lone silhouette in the distance walking away. Underneath, written in faint pencil, "Some ghosts never leave." What really happened to the missing $4.4 million? Who buried the letter after all those years? And what was Charles Wren hiding from when he wrote his last words? To find out, we have to go back into the desert one more time. Subscribe so you don't miss part 2. Comment where you're watching from. 3 years after the discovery of the bodies and the strange letter signed by Charles Wren, the case had gone cold again. The evidence locker in Carson Ridge collected dust, the tape recorder sealed, the photographs faded, and Detective Raymond Cole, retired but restless, spent his nights staring at a map of the desert pinned to his wall. It was 2007 when a journalist named Dana Holt came to see him. She was 32, sharp, relentless, and convinced that the story wasn't over. She'd found something: a series of financial transactions in El Paso tied to an alias used by Wren in 1996. "You think he's alive?" Cole asked her, voice hoarse from years of cigarettes. "No," she replied. "I think someone's pretending to be him." Dana's research showed that in early 2001, someone using Wren's name had rented a storage unit near the border, paying in cash. The facility had since been sold, but the new owners still had the records. Cole and Holt drove out there 2 days later, crossing into Texas heat that shimmered off the asphalt. When they arrived, the clerk, an older woman named Maria, confirmed that the unit had been cleared in 2003 by a man who said he was Charles Wren. No ID, just the name on file. He was limping, she said, walked like someone who'd been shot. Inside the empty unit, Cole noticed something scratched in the back wall. A string of numbers: 36.2, 4.19, 116.49.57. Desert coordinates. They pointed to an area 15 miles west of Death Valley, almost exactly where the first container had been found years earlier. "He went back," Cole muttered. "He went back to finish it." The Bureau reopened the case quietly, forming a small task team led by Agent Lisa Moran, now a senior investigator. She brought in new technology: drones, heat sensors, forensic scanners, and within weeks, they found something the old teams had missed. Beneath a cluster of volcanic rocks, partially buried, was a skeletal hand sticking from the sand. Next to it, a revolver, the same .38 caliber that had killed Paul Mercer. Dental analysis confirmed the body as Charles Wren. He'd died of dehydration sometime between 2001 and 2003. In his tattered backpack, agents found a waterproof pouch containing 3 items: a small notebook, a burned piece of film, and a metal key with 17 engraved on it, the same locker number mentioned in the confession letter. But this key was different. It belonged to a train station locker in Los Angeles. The notebook contained fragmented sentences, scribbled in desperation. They buried it near the old line: "He shot Paul. I didn't mean to run. He said we'd never be found." The final page read, "If anyone finds this, tell her I'm sorry. D." Cole didn't know who D was until Dana Holt pointed to herself. "My mother's maiden name was Wren," she said quietly. "He was my uncle." The revelation reframed everything. Dana hadn't just been chasing a story. She'd been chasing her bloodline. Cole looked at her for a long time, realizing she had known more than she'd said. "You used me," he said. "No," she answered. "I needed you." The team followed the lead to Los Angeles. The locker at Union Station had long been cleared, but the manager confirmed it had been emptied in 2004 by a man in his 40s, wearing a Rangers jacket. He'd shown an old claim ticket and walked out with a small briefcase. Security footage from that time was still archived on tape. When they pulled it, the man's face froze on the grainy screen. Raymond Cole, the retired detective. Holt stared at the image in disbelief. Cole looked 10 years younger, hair darker, eyes sharper, but there was no mistake. The Bureau confronted him at his home in Carson Ridge. He didn't resist. "You think I stole it?" he said, lighting a cigarette. "You think I kept their blood money?" Moran placed the briefcase on the table. It had been recovered from his shed earlier that day, hidden under a tarp. Inside was not cash, but 16 rolls of undeveloped film, water-damaged but intact. Cole's hands trembled as he looked at them. "I didn't take the money," he said. "I took the truth." When the film was developed, it revealed dozens of photographs. Dalton, Mercer, and Wren camping in the desert, laughing, cooking, even posing beside the stolen Crown Victoria before it burned. They weren't fugitives then, they were friends. One picture showed Wren kneeling beside a large metal chest, open, filled with stacks of bills. Another showed him holding the gun. "He killed them," Holt whispered. "He killed them both." But Cole shook his head. "Look closer." In the next photo, Mercer was alive, pointing the gun toward Wren. Dalton was standing between them, expressionless. A fight, an argument, a betrayal captured in fragments. The last photo showed only desert dust, blur motion, and the edge of someone's boot, someone not in the earlier frames. A fourth person had been there. Forensics enhanced the image, isolating the boot tread pattern. Military issue, mid-90s standard for U.S. private contractors. That matched the make of boot found near the first campsite in 2000. There was a fourth man, Moran concluded, and he's the one who walked away. But who was he? The answer came from a small clue on the film envelope, an address label from a photo lab in Albuquerque, dated July 1997. Cole and Holt flew there, tracing the business to a retired technician named Jerry Pope. When shown the photos, Pope paled. "Yeah," he said, "I remember that guy. Paid me to develop these off the books. Didn't want receipts." "What did he look like?" Moran asked. Pope thought for a long moment. Tall, bald, scar on his cheek. Drove a Jeep with Nevada plates. "Name," said to write it as Mr. Lane. The name matched a record from the early task force files. Owen Lane, a former Army mechanic who disappeared from a nearby military base a week after the heist. He'd been working as a contractor for the bank security company, the same one where Wren was employed. He'd known them all. Back then, he was dismissed as a low-level technician. Now he was the missing piece. With new evidence, the Bureau issued a warrant for Lane, believed to be living under aliases across the Southwest. For months, they tracked dead ends, motel receipts, stolen car reports, sightings at gas stations. Then, in late 2008, an anonymous tip came in from a small town near the Mexican border. A drifter calling himself Owen had been frequenting a diner, paying only in cash, telling stories about buried fortunes and dead friends. Moran, Holt, and a local sheriff's team drove there that night. They found Lane in the parking lot, sitting inside a rusted Jeep, a gun on the seat beside him. When Moran called out, he looked up, unafraid. "You finally made it," he said. "Took you long enough." He didn't resist arrest. During interrogation, Lane spoke calmly, almost relieved. Transcript excerpt, interrogation, December 4th, 2008. It wasn't supposed to go that way. Dalton planned the whole thing. He wanted out, no more debts, no more small-time jobs. $6 million was supposed to set us all free. But Mercer got greedy. Wren panicked. One gunshot, then another, and I ran. I buried what I could. You think you can find it? The desert doesn't give back what it takes. Where's the rest of the money? Gone. The storm took it. Maybe that's justice. He refused to elaborate. 2 days later, Lane was found dead in his cell, apparent suicide. But the security camera in the hallway showed a man entering the holding area an hour before his death, wearing a maintenance uniform. The footage cut out before his face could be seen. When it resumed, Lane was gone. His body was found miles away, dumped beside a dry riverbed. Official cause: heart failure. Unofficially, no one believed it. Holt wrote the story, but not the one she'd intended. It wasn't about the robbery anymore. It was about how the desert consumed everyone who touched that money. In 2010, while reviewing her uncle's old notebook, she found a pressed flower between 2 pages, a desert marigold, and beneath it, a faint imprint of coordinates in pencil. She followed them with Moran. They led to a canyon ridge where wind howled through broken stone. There, half buried under rubble, they found a rusted lockbox. Inside were remnants of decayed bills, a small silver cross, and a photograph of 4 men: Dalton, Mercer, Wren, and Lane, arms around each other, smiling. On the back, before it all went wrong. Dana kept that photo. She later said in an interview, "It wasn't about the money. It was about what people lose trying to escape themselves." The Bureau officially closed the case in 2011, declaring that all suspects were deceased and the stolen funds unrecoverable. But locals still whispered about the missing millions. Every few years, someone found an old dollar bill half buried in the sand, its edges sun-bleached, stamped with the Valley West serial code. Rumors grew of treasure hunters combing the desert at night, chasing ghosts for cash that would crumble in their hands. Raymond Cole died in 2012. In his will, he left one sealed envelope to Dana Holt. Inside was a photograph taken years earlier of her standing in the desert with the sun behind her, unaware. On the back, his handwriting, "You found what I couldn't, peace." Years later, Holt turned the investigation into a documentary called The Desert Heist: What Remains. It aired once, then disappeared due to licensing issues. The raw footage never surfaced again. Some said the FBI confiscated it. Others believed Holt buried it, the way her uncle buried the truth. In 2018, hikers near Carson Ridge discovered another metal container, older than the rest. Inside was a cassette labeled Desert Tape B. When played, it contained a single voice, male, weary, familiar. If anyone's listening, it said, "It wasn't about greed. We just wanted to disappear. The money was never real. It was a ticket out. But the desert keeps what's hers." Static followed. The recording ended with faint footsteps fading into wind. No one ever identified the voice. Some believed it was Wren. Others thought it was Lane, somehow alive. The FBI archived it as undetermined origin. In the end, only the desert remained constant, indifferent, silent, holding secrets beneath its shifting sands. To this day, the missing $4.4 million has never been found. The Valley West Bank site was demolished and rebuilt into a museum dedicated to Nevada's unsolved mysteries. Inside a glass case, visitors can see Dalton's wristwatch, frozen at 3:17, next to the tape recorder, and a single photograph of the empty horizon. A small plaque beneath it reads, "Some ghosts never leave." And somewhere beyond that horizon, buried under decades of dust, the rest of the truth sleeps, waiting for the wind to uncover it again. What do you think? Was justice ever served? Or did the desert simply choose who to spare? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Disclaimer: all names, locations, and events are fictionalized or altered for creative and safety reasons. Any resemblance to real persons or places is coincidental. Real-world references are verified and used only for contextual accuracy.